approval of minutes for the last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Seconded.
Those in favor, say aye.
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 I'm sorry, who seconded? I did. Thank you. Yeah.
Carmen did. Topics from the floor, from attendees otherwise not on the agenda.
I have something. So I passed out a letter of support. This is for a federal transportation grant. And you might be thinking, what does transportation have to do with parks? So I talked to Sherry, and last meeting you talked about combining the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission and the Parks Commission. And since none of the formalities associated with that have happened yet, I'm coming to you because you still deal with trails within parks, and the waterfront site, as you may remember, has potential for park expansion of Columbia View Park and public access along the water's edge. And so this grant focuses on transportation. So we're applying, this is the I think the largest transportation grant program through the federal government. It used to be called the Tiger Grant Program, you may have heard. So it's between a $10 to $15 million project. It includes extension of South First Street and the Strand. And then the most exciting aspect is the boardwalk. So we're hoping to get money to construct a boardwalk through existing Columbia View Park, and we're not sure linear length of it yet. We're working through some cost estimates, but we want it to be as long as it possibly can within our budget. And then it will transition into some type of greenway trail beyond the boardwalk that continues all the way down through the southern end of the site. This will not fund the greenway piece. It will just do the transportation network and the boardwalk piece. So this letter, I kind of put it together pretty quickly. I didn't realize there wasn't another meeting before our application is due until today, so I just threw this together. But it kind of highlights why this boardwalk is so crucial. And just to, let everyone know, if they don't know already, we have a developer who wants to build a 100-unit boutique hotel. And so that would complement any visitors that come and stay at the hotel to have this beautiful public amenity along the water. So that's a little bit about the project and its significance. So it touches on some of that in here. Does anyone have questions? So the first phase of development would just be the hotel. We don't know how quickly they would move forward. They're still doing a lot of their market analysis to see. So we should know more in the next few months here about, timeline, but the first phase is for sure the hotel.
Jenny, you said that, and I suppose the design of the boardwalk is
part of this project.
Yeah, but
yeah.
We actually have to submit a design.
So, yeah, that's a good question. Our consultants are going to have to make some assumptions about the design in order to come up with a cost, but they're doing planning level assumptions. So it will be a nice big round number for the grant, but formal design and engineering will have to come when we can actually do in-water work and test the pilings and see how stable the bank is. And there's a lot of on-ground work that this grant is not going to.
My only concern would be that you took it right through Columbia View Park versus maybe starting it at Columbia View Park.
No, so we would start at the ramp in Columbia View Park. So the ramp down
on the north side,
down to the docks. Yeah, so the
Siemens located.
yeah, so ideally that would be a great feature to connect the park to the new site, is by having a linear feature along the water's edge. That was like the biggest piece that I took away from the students doing the Columbia View expansion project, was that having some kind of water's edge feature through the whole length of the existing park and into the new expanded park would be a great way to tie it together.
Edge type.
Yes, exactly.
So it's gonna be on piers?
So, right now, we're just doing cost estimates for at water's edge, so at the bank's edge.
Okay.
That doesn't prohibit us from having a pier into the water in the future. But this project, since it focuses on transportation, we don't want a bunch of the budget to get eaten up by very expensive permitting through all of the different agencies that deal with in-water work. So we're focusing on the pedestrian and bike connection between these two features, the park and then the new site. Not so much in-water stuff. I think the design would be that you'd feel like you're over the water's edge because there's nothing below you. You'd just be right at the bank.
So use like plexiglass, see.
Yeah, yeah. I think Port Angeles in Washington has a really nice new facility, and that is my desktop right now. If we can have something half as beautiful, that would be amazing. I recommend looking at. They have a 2-tier system where like the faster moving bikes and people with strollers and maybe dogs can walk really quickly, and then you walk down the steps and get closer to the water, and then there's the more leisurely bench system, and you're actually closer out over the water. It's a really expensive project, but it's very beautiful, and they actually have parking like right up against it too, which
My only concern is that they leave a little bit of room behind what's now the gazebo at Columbia View, so
it can
because we talked about expanding it.
push it
at some
out.
point.
Yeah,
I don't want to, unlike some others, I don't want to push it out too far because you expose yourself to wind more.
right.
But
Yeah,
it could stand and go back about 5-10 feet,
yeah.
and that would probably be good.
I think just having an amphitheater in general, like an actual stage, would be amazing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Is taking the gazebo out and putting in an actual, somehow covered stage.
Sure,
You can
yeah.
sit on it, but I wouldn't
Yeah,
want
that's a
the
good point.
boardwalk to preempt that being done.
right.
I think they could probably be worked together, so.
Yeah, and for width, we were talking a minimum of 16 feet wide to prevent the collisions between bikes and pedestrians on the site, and strollers and dog walking and all the other users.
And you'd go all the way over to the Boise, the mill property?
So so the boardwalk, at a minimum would go 400 feet, we're thinking, starting at that ramp. And then it would transition to something on land as a greenway trail or something that's more like a multi-use path than a boardwalk.
Is that 400 feet the part that's mostly going, talked about being developed right now?
Yeah, so this grant won't fund the greenway trail.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just only so many things that we can fit within that budget.
That was this letter? That was
Right.
this letter here.
Yeah, so if you don't have other questions, that was a lot. But this, this is just one of probably 25 letters of support we're going to submit. We're going all in with this.
Okay, so do we want to have more discussion on this? Any questions, comments? So Jen, what do we need to do?
So motion for signature, and then if you wouldn't mind signing it so that I have it.
Okay, motion, there's a form letter here.
He's
Says
got
all
the
those
color
things
version.
that-
You guys don't.
Make a motion for you to approve this letter?
Yep.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I don't think we mean to preclude you from making minor changes to it.
Okay, if I see a typo or
Yeah, or some wording somehow
Yeah.
strikes you as odd or something.
And Matt, you wanted to, the new person that just came in, I think I know who he is, but I'm not 100% sure.
Paul Barlow
Paul Barlow.
from the Bike and Pedestrian.
You look a lot like him.
Committee. Yeah.
Paul, welcome to our meeting.
All right.
Okay, Matt, you wanted to talk to us?
Yeah, just for a few minutes, if I could. Hopefully, it won't take too long. So I handed out to you kind of the preliminary discussions that internally we're having as staff. These are projects that were slated on the 2015 Parks Master Plan. As I think I've told you in past meetings, the Budget Committee has approved a reinvestment into parks and trails for $500,000. I'm assuming that's going to be passed by council here on the 20th, which means this next fiscal year we can get started on projects. So just internally, we've met as staff, myself, Jenny and Sue are here who are at the meetings, as well as Thad and Neil who were also at the meetings, and provided some feedback and direction on what kind of projects we as staff think should be done and when we can kind of fit them in schedule-wise. So you have two columns on the far right that are fiscal year 18-19 and then fiscal year 19-20. If there is an X by a project, that means we would like to kind of put that as on the chalkboard as this is when we want to get things done. So we've gone through the 2015 master plan. All the projects that we thought were applicable are shown on the front and back of the pages that you have. So what we're looking from you as a commission is, at least at this point, is just kind of a general consensus or approval for some of these projects. Probably some of the bigger ones are in Campbell Park in fiscal year 19-20, $200,000 to put in a flex court for the new tennis courts as well as the basketball. And then the 6th Streets that's listed there. Anything marked with future means that we don't anticipate the city doing anything in the near future for these projects for a multitude of reasons that are probably each specific to each one. So I wasn't planning on going through individually line item by line item, but and then McCormick, we also have a pretty decent list of projects that would need to be completed. So the X's mark the fiscal year projects, like I said, that we want to get done. And we're just looking for you as a commission, as a general consensus or approval to keep moving forward in planning. I would anticipate more public meetings, more public outreach, and obviously city council involvement as well as the Parks Commission when we really get this list nailed down to what we're planning on doing. No. No, there is no deadline. The funds are coming from an outside investment that the city has. The city currently invests about $3 million in general bonds and everything. So, so we're proposing to take $500,000 of that $3 million to put towards parks.
Are these all the, and I realize that the X's are the ones that you're taking action on, but is this all, the rest of it, all of the suggested improvements? Or
Those are all the rest of the suggested improvements. There were a couple improvements that were on the 2015 master plan that we removed because they were just really far outreaching or not needed at this point. Yeah, and there's a couple on here that are noted that we've already done to some extent. So
You say these suggested improvements are part of the master plan?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, there are a
There
few.
items that are picked out of that plan, just, or it's not everything that's in it.
It's not everything that's in the master plan. So we took the master plan list, went through and figured out what items were done, which items that were put in there kind of like as a dream. So for instance, like if you look at Columbia View Park, those are all marked future items, mainly because there are current developments going on with Columbia View Park. So we don't want to do something and then spend $20,000 and then have it tore up 3 years from now.
it's like when they pave the roads and they come in and
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah.
So the list is all inclusive of
Correct.
what's in there, it's just whether it's X is next
Yes.
to it or it's future.
Yep.
And who made the determination on which, I'm just curious. on which
This
project
list
to go?
came from internal staff, so myself, Sue, Jenny, who did the 2015 Parks Master Plan, as well as Sue, Thad and Neil.
So Matt, what do you want us to do here?
This basically just a kind of a general consensus to keep moving forward and basically kind of give us the go-ahead to say, yeah, keep working on it and come back to us with more.
Because I know as a commission, we make recommendations, and then they kind of move up the food chain.
Correct.
We're just,
So we've kind of started that process as far as just internally meeting and seeing what's feasible, what can we get done, and how much can we do in a single year. And so we've just kind of kick-started that progress a
So
little
this is
bit.
really just kind of a formality then, so.
Well, I think if there's a project that you feel like is missing, that would be good to know. Like if you had something in mind. I mean, the 2015 master plan,
Jen, I always have things in mind.
yeah. But I mean, but really, like
But I know what you're saying.
it's
I mean,
worth
but I
noting
feel
that
like-
in your
I feel like
recommendation.
saying those things at the meeting here, and then they go up, and if I feel like it's that important, then I keep,
Yeah.
Hoping for a water slide.
But this is
yeah, I keep pounding on this, you know, that's kind of my position
Gotcha.
on these
But
things.
this is the guiding document to spend money, so it's good to incorporate if there's like a reasonable suggestion. You
No,
know,
I don't.
Now's the time.
Does anyone have a reason, does anyone have something
I
they
have
wanna?
a question in here on this. The thing that I keep trying to do is the parks brochure, and I've been trying to get some interest in that since we've been talking about it for a year. Is I've been thinking that we need to find a way to get a grant, or would this be where we should say there should be $5,000 or $10,000 dedicated to have somebody update our parks brochure? How do we get the parks brochure updated is what I've been trying to do for the last year. What can we do for a source of funding? Would this be one option, or is there grants, or? can we
This
get
could be an
tourism
option
money,
to
or
use
what?
for some of that funding.
Because I'm really getting frustrated with, I'd like to see it moving forward, but I never really hear of how and what we can do for funding to hire somebody to update our parks brochure.
Yeah, we talked about that the
I've
last
been talking
meeting
about
a
it
little
for a
bit,
year.
yeah, and we had somebody, an intern, I think, who was working on it, or a student who was working on it, and then she had other obligations that came up, so we were kind of wondering what's the next step for that, but.
I think it's a point well taken. And with the Parks and Rec program coming up, you know, maybe there's room for coordinator, you know, to work with someone to develop a design or something. It's really a matter of design work.
Yeah, I think that's more of a parks
Well, and printing
person.
costs.
We've worked very hard, I think, to this point to keep recreation and parks separated.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that might intermix a little bit. But to your
Yeah.
point, I don't think it's anything outlandish to put that parks brochure into this plan
Oh, I was doing
and
great
mark
with
that
myself
for,
today.
see if we can, because that's,
Question is, what's our fastest way to get money to get the updated brochures?
Yeah.
this would be the fastest thing probably, and the best route, and something that is consultant work, so it's not a lot of staff time.
Right. Which is the issue of
which-
doing it now. It's just there's no staff time.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, God, if we could just get a $5 to $10 or something or other, I
Yeah.
would think that would easily hire
Yeah.
somebody
A
to.
graphic designer. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Well,
graphic
so-
designers cost, but printing costs a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd
Because I
find a
assume
way
we're
to
gonna be
print it
full
though.
color, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's definitely something I can add to the list then,
Okay.
as a suggestion
good
from the
idea.
Parks Commission, if that is,
Can we
A
have a
general-
little bit of time to review too? Would we
Oh, yeah.
email you if we, because I want to look through.
yeah, you can definitely email me, and like I said, this isn't the only time you're gonna see this list.
Okay.
I anticipate coming back to you probably one more time or two, once we kind of get things going in kind of the public process,
Okay.
so.
Sounds good.
I think we could do I'll move that we approve in concept the proposal that's submitted here with the one addition that you've mentioned, and we'll go from there. We're gonna see it again. This is just a preliminary. So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Councilors' report. I see Douglas is not here tonight, so we'll move on to old business.
short meeting.
Now, John
Yes.
wasn't here last time because he had the wrong day, and his mother passed away. I'm sorry about that, so. And I think we had Carmen and John were gonna report to the council on June 20th. Is that correct?
Yeah, is that the date for next Wednesday? Then yes, that's
Were you
correct.
contacted on that, John?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think I got an email.
emailed you about it.
I think
yeah.
I did respond
Yeah.
to that.
You were gonna be there for moral support.
Was that a yes or a no?
Yes, I will be there for moral support.
And it's during it's the afternoon.
She's already, I assume you've.
Yep, this is the,
You've already
I
done a
emailed
wonderful
this out to
job of
everybody too.
writing everything up and.
I just kind of wanted to, so you guys have it all, you can read through it. If you want to read through it and give me any updates you want me to add to it by the end of the week, I'll also incorporate
hand me
the
one of those.
updated list from Matt into it. Cause I have, at the end of it, I have funding and budget stuff, so I'll update it. But there's a few sections that I had highlighted that I just wanted to bring up to see if we have any updates on. So one of them was the Veterans Memorial. We had discussed that in the last meeting, and I wasn't sure if they said that there was gonna be a final design in May and construction to begin after Labor Day. Has anyone heard any updates on that?
I have been trying to get a meeting together with Andrew Nemi,
Okay,
and he just emailed me back today and said that he would have time probably on Thursday of this week. I have to check my calendar and see if that'll work. And then Doug had wanted to participate in that.
okay.
So we'll have to just check to see if we can all get together at that particular time.
Okay.
But
So
that's,
discussions
yeah,
are still happening.
I think that they probably have their close to a final design
Okay, cool.
together, but I haven't seen it in quite some time.
Now, where
Okay.
Where was that?
This was for the Veterans Memorial. Okay, that's good. I'll just add a little update there. Thank you. And then,
If Jen was here, she could tell you everything
yeah,
about Greg. She told me today, but,
It's not on the list here
what's not?
But-
for approval.
but I do have it, if you want me to say what it is.
Yeah, for Great
This is
Cliff.
what she, well, I was gonna say it later.
Yeah.
Now's as good as time. She said, and and there's some other things I wanted to add to this. She says that they're going to, just pass my,
And this
hang
is
on to these.
for
I'm gonna talk
the-
about this stuff later.
And I can wait, we can come back to it, whatever.
Oh,
you
no,
wanna
let's do
update
it right
on.
now.
Okay,
Let's come back to it later.
okay, we'll
That
come
way I
back
don't have to do it twice.
That's fine. I'll just,
Do you have two more?
yeah.
Okay, well, but that was,
Or is it each one? Okay.
Okay, so we'll come back to that and I'll update it based on your update today. And then my other was Godfrey Park. I haven't heard anything about the grant for Godfrey. Do you know about that?
We
You
didn't get it, no.
or-
But that's
I-
okay
Saw it in the
because,
budget.
yeah, because we're still planning to do the improvements with the natural style
player.
play, yeah. I don't want to call it equipment, but
Yeah,
yeah, a play area. And that's going to be one of the projects that we try to undertake.
Sue, where's that going to be put in at the park?
I couldn't tell you an exact location. We haven't gotten that far at all.
Right next to the liquor store.
I wanna talk about that. Like, we were talking about what Matt was talking about, improvements. And one of the things I've wanted to see happen at Godfrey Park, as you're facing the Godfrey Park, you're looking east towards the river. On the far right-hand side, there's a little gravel road that goes down to there, and I've mentioned it several different times to Neil, and I think he's said he would do it if he had the dirt. I'd like to see that covered with dirt, so it's just not a whole bunch of rocks sticking up there. And, some signs put down there, making that the pet area, where you put all the bags and everything. You leave the bags up on top too, but have some bags down there and call that the pet area, so people can go down there and have their dogs do their thing down there. So that's one thing I would like to see done to
and
that
I
park.
think the last time, in the last meeting, he mentioned that the reason they haven't done it yet is because of the weather. So maybe now that it's drying out, I can follow up with them
Okay,
on it and see if
good, thank you.
that's still in the plans. And then from one of the past agendas, we had some updates mentioned about the dog park. So I just wanted to check to see if any of those were happening or where those were at.
I'm not sure. They haven't happened yet,
Okay,
but I'm not sure where they are in the
okay.
Okay, Carmen, another thing, and I'll
Yeah.
talk about it when we get to Great Cliffs Park, is, right, I'll talk about that at the time, about a dog park there.
Oh, okay,
There is a dog park there, but I talked
Okay.
about improvements there.
okay. Okay. And then the other question I had was in one of the past agenda, or in the past notes, was raising the SDC fees. Did that happen? Do you know
Yes.
anything? It did?
Yes.
Okay.
What is it?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And since we're talking about your report to the commission,
Uh-huh.
what's the situation on the city schools joint project on summer recreation?
I've seen a lot of stuff out there about it, but I don't think we've gotten an official update.
Yeah, Matt would be the best person probably to update you on that, but I know it's moving
Are
full.
we gonna be is that gonna be brought up to us by Doug or
It
someone?
could,
As far as I know, they already have the program
mm-hmm,
up and running, and
Yeah.
it's on the website,
Mhm.
There's events
like different
happening.
events and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
They
there,
gave out a brochure in the paper, and I think most.
But
Correct.
the question I have is,
mailed.
in the early stages, I mean, not that I would have changed anything, but, you know, I was just curious, why didn't at least, you know, nothing's been ever mentioned to us about that?
because it's not a parks activities. There are some things that cross over, like people can reserve the parks for certain things to like hold a yoga class, for example, down here. But it's a really separate, they're trying very
So
hard to
it's
keep
between
it as
the
a
city- it's city
completely
and
separate
schools.
entity. Yeah, it's a recreation program, not a parks and recreation program. So it's, you know, well, if we get the tennis courts rebuilt, people could reserve that through the parks or through the recreation program, but it's not specific to things going on in the parks. It's things that are going on all over. They can reserve a gymnasium at the school.
I got it,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so they are trying really hard to keep those as separate programs.
We had a program a few years ago.
Oh,
The schools paid for it,
Mm.
it was held at the same.
Could potentially that yeah.
I know
Yeah,
back in
that
the nineties, Carol
probably
used
could
to
be
teach
similar.
soccer in the summertime through a city program,
Mm.
but that was 20 years ago or more.
Yeah,
Kara is my oldest daughter.
yeah. I remember when you used to be able to sign up for archery classes and painting classes and stuff like that through the recreation program. And some of those were in a park, but they weren't parks activities.
So if you guys can just read over the rest of this report to city council and just email me by the end of the week if you want me to make any changes, since I'll be presenting it next week. Is there anything that you want me to add for the bike and pedestrian or anything?
We've already made our presentation.
You have?
So
Okay.
yeah, at least
Okay.
for this year, I guess we're okay.
Okay, perfect.
One thing along those lines, and I was gonna bring it up earlier, and I know Sue mentioned it a little bit. So what is the feeling about the bikes and pedestrians? Is that appropriate to mention here since it's going into this
Is it gonna
report?
happen?
Is it still, Paul,
As far as I know, it's already happened.
Yeah, I think they have to change the official language of the ordinance that establishes the two commissions. And
I don't read
I don't
the
believe that that's been
website.
formalized yet. Yeah.
so Paul and
It's-
Ben and the other people that are still active in the bikes and pedestrians are going to, we're gonna have a new name and everything?
That's the way I don't know
I
that
think
you'll
that's
have a
something that
new
needs to
name.
be worked out, I guess, amongst
Yeah.
ourselves, maybe. That was one of my
A
questions.
new name,
was-
all right.
was
I also need to talk to Kathy. I'm sure we have to update the bylaws and stuff. 'cause they
Correct.
Say how many members we have.
Exactly. And I believe
Yeah.
that's what they're working on now, or they've asked the attorneys to rewrite or whatever, because the ordinance has to be changed for that, exactly what you're saying.
We're going back to meeting once a month then.
No, I hope not.
If you take on a whole other thing, I almost think you need
Yeah.
to meet every month.
Yeah, we might.
See?
Carmen, is there
You
anything
guys
else you
are-
wanna
You guys
say?
are a little
That's it. I was just
busier
looking
than
for
I
those
think we
updates.
are, it sounds like.
Okay, we're gonna move on
We don't
then.
have quite as
Cool.
much going on,
Next.
so.
And I don't know if it was Howard that you were doing this or not, but we spent some time talking about Friends, and I don't know who's heading that up.
Well, I gave a bunch of stuff to Doug, I was hoping he was gonna be here to talk about it. Didn't I give you guys a copy of what we thought
Yeah.
the Nob Hill Nature Park Friends Group was? And Doug was gonna probably talk to somebody to see about having them rewrite it into a little bit more of a generic thing.
So what do you wanna see happen, Harold?
It's basically
you
in
wanna
Doug's
talk-
hands.
Yeah,
It's
Doug was the
basically
one
in
who
Doug's hands. I
wanted-
was hoping he was gonna be here to talk about it.
Okay, so Sherry, can we put that on for the next meeting then? And then-
Defining friends group, move it to next month.
Yeah,
I
and-
mean, I thought Doug had some input on that.
And Howard, since you're the one that's kind of the driving force behind this, good idea.
Well, with
Would-
his idea, we were the only ones to actually make up.
Would you be the one who contacts Doug to see that,
Okay.
that,
Mhm.
that it
Okay.
doesn't get dropped?
Yes.
Because things get dropped pretty easily.
Mhm.
Okay, Parks report, anyone wants anything about Friends Group? Okay, let's move on to Parks report.
You're out here? Okay.
And I'm not sure
Thank
who was
you.
gonna do the Campbell's report. Oh,
I was at the last meeting,
are you prepared, John?
more or less. I helped build it, so I know.
I know, well,
about
you've
it.
been there for years with the
Yeah.
softball and everything, so, I mean, you know that park really well.
Actually, you know, I don't have a written report to give you, but what I will tell you is a couple things. One is Campbell Park came into being as a result of the Men's Fast Pitch League in St. Helens moving from Sixth Street out there, building a field and a concession stand, and eventually the restrooms were built, and eventually the second field was added. That was something I started when we started men's slow pitch there, and then women's started using it. Now today it is all used by youth for softball, the fast pitch softball. Men's fast pitch leagues have gone by the wayside, and slow pitch has moved to McCormick Park, which is lit now, and the Campbell Park was lit by the men's fast pitch league and the men's slow pitch and the women's league all at the same time. We raised money, so it was mostly a volunteer effort for just about everything that was there. Before I talk about it, I'll just give you a quick things. It's approximately 9 acres, located at the intersection of North Benoni Road and McMichael Street. It has a playground, 2 picnic shelters, had tennis courts. They're more like a war zone now out there.
But that's in the new budget.
But that is
And
for-
it's, they've
in
been
2
talking,
years.
I mean, they've been the city's been talking about this for,
Many years.
yeah, this is like, yeah, 5, 6 years.
They were built on the cheap by Jim Davis and really were never quite up to standard. And because of water and rise and fall, they're all cracked and they're,
That needs
I
to
mean,
be,
I wouldn't
that
try to
really
put-
does need to be done.
yeah, it needs to be fixed.
Is there tennis at the schools? Do the schools offer tennis?
Yeah, there's this
At
high
the
school,
school-
there's
oh,
a high school
like
boys and girls
12
tennis team, and they
courts
have,
are
they have really nice tennis courts out there. A year or two ago, the St. Arnold's Booster Club, which I'm not a member of, but I know people that are, one of their projects was to raise money for that, and they fixed it
To
all up.
resurface them,
Yeah, because they were getting pretty well worn with crack. You know how tennis courts
Is
get
it
cracked.
about 6
and-
courts?
I would say something like that, John.
Yeah, about 6 courts there. And so they at one point did actually use the courts at Campbell. Because they only had like 2 at the high school, if I remember right. There's like 2 there, and then they used the 2 courts at the school, and it still was inadequate. They have a huge turnout for kids to play tennis. I mean, it's 30, 40 kids, boys and girls.
Yeah,
come out for it.
yeah, I have a good friend whose daughter plays on it.
There's currently a restroom there, but there are funds in the proposed thing to upgrade the bathroom. Has 2 picnic shelters. The problem with the picnic shelters, there's no electricity or lights or water or anything to them, and that's also in the thing to improve. Let's see. It's actually one of the city's highest usage parks, because they start playing there in the spring and it goes into October, almost
Well,
November.
we used to run some tournaments there. I mean, that used to be every weekend there was
Yeah,
like
we used to have, the Slow Pitch League used to have 16 tournaments there a year. And basically, every guy in the league, every team in the league had their own tournament to raise money for their team. And the men's fast pitch was the Porta Fun tournament for many years, and that was a lot of fun. Jenny gave me this, it's from the master plan. I dig up my old master plan, but this was a neat priority improvements, which are covered in this proposal here, which I'm glad to see. It was improvements to the picnic shelters, which would add utilities. They also suggested in this 2 additional picnic shelters, which might not be a bad idea. It's a very nice area. I just stopped by there on the way
So
here.
John, what do you, okay, I'll wait till you're done.
Okay, yeah, I'm almost there. It's very shaded, it's got grass, it's got a nice little playground area. The ball fields are there, because, you know, some people that have reunion stuff like to play a little ball or something. It's pretty heavily used. There was 10 people over there, and I just drove by this afternoon, not doing much. The other thing we just talked about was rehabilitating the tennis courts. One thing Jenny wanted to mention, but I don't think it's in the approval list, but it might be a good project for somebody or something for a grant, was proposed trail outside the area around the park.
Oh, a walking trail.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. I think the priority for a while is gonna be the trail along the waterfront with the boardwalk and a trail that connects out to that area of the Boise Mill, which we went and toured a while back. I don't remember who was there, but I think Jerry and I were there, and Howard. But if you ever walk down the creek on the Boise Mill side of Old Portland Road, it's really interesting down there, but to build the trail on out and to connect with eventually a trail to Scappoose, which connects to Vernonia, and have a pretty interesting hike along there. And
Have you heard that, Paul, that the Slip Summit Trail?
here it is, this is what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
So what they're proposing for next year is upgrade the restroom amenities and fixtures and upgrade the existing picnic shelters with utilities, which is good. In the following year to rehabilitate the tennis courts and add more playground equipment. So, although I actually hadn't seen the playground equipment there. I don't even know when it was built. But,
So John, what would be your recommendation for the park?
I think just what they're proposing is a great start for it. I think I looked through some of these that are being proposed just for next year, and I think it's a good thing. I like to see them finally spending some money in the parks to upgrade. The one thing that isn't mentioned on there that I noticed is that some of the cyclone fencing around the backstop needs to be replaced, and I don't know if that's on Thad's.
Yeah, but see, that's why I kinda wish Neil and everyone kinda took off. I kinda wish that they were here so they could.
Yeah, so we can talk to it. That's not a huge expense, but it's a cost of money, so.
Okay.
And question I would have, I would assume that replacing the tennis courts includes taking care of the drainage issue there, because that is a mess
It's gonna
out
have to,
there.
or it's ridiculous to do it, to
It's
spend
a
that kind of money.
swamp
It's
out
built in
there.
a swamp, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
why
when
it's so
you
bad.
try to walk out there in the wintertime, and
Yeah.
it's pretty bad.
Just walking between the bridge and the tennis courts is
Yeah.
a slog, yeah.
That would,
So, I apologize for not being more thorough. I've been in a daze for a couple of months, but I'm starting to come out of it now, so.
Any other comments about Campbell Park? Nada? Okay. John, mine's a little more formal than yours, because I looked through this here, that I think that Jenny put this book together. Is that true, Sherry? Jenny made this book?
The master plan?
Okay. So I just gotta give most of my credit to Jen on my report, but, okay, I'm gonna just pass this around. This is a map of Great Cliffs Waterfront Park that you don't have, and there's a little portion that's not on this map, that's downstream, okay? Just this little part right here. Just pass it around so you can see that there is more to the park than just that, okay? So, I'm just gonna kinda do a formal report here, and I'll try to read this pretty fast, because this is pretty boring stuff. Okay, so there are different categories of parks. 6 or 7 of them. And this is called Great Cliffs Waterfront Park, is a neighborhood park. A neighborhood park provides close-to-home recreation opportunities primary for non-supervised, non-organized recreational activities. They are located within approximately 5 to 10 walk without crossing major thoroughfares, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They serve up to 1/2 mile radius and are generally 2 to 20 acres in size. Neighborhood parks typically include amenities such as playgrounds, outdoor sports, courts, sports fields, picnic tables, paths, multiple use open grass areas, or they may not provide off-street parking. Neighborhood parks can, when practically located next to elementary schools, in order to provide more efficient use for the public. So it's a neighborhood park. And Gray Cliff Park is 1.6 acres in size.
How many
Hello.
acres did you say?
1.6 is what I
Oh,
think
okay.
I said.
How much is Nob Hill?
About 6.5.
6.5 acres?
6.6, John, right there. You asked?
That's why I go there so often.
I go through there, I used to go through there a lot. I don't do that much. I don't walk my dog as much as I used to. Okay, the next thing is called level of service. And that's to determine adequate park and recreational provides typical measurement of existing parklands and village to compare them against established standards. And the LOS says for neighborhood parks that we should have 1 acre to 2 acres for every 1,000 people. And the LOS, I think ours is 0.85, so we're way under. And on the next page there, it just says level of service. I added up all of our neighborhood parks and I came up with 8.5. That's, you know, that we have per 1,000 people. So we're under that. In other places, it says that it's a little bit different, so I'd have to talk to Jen about that. But we are a little understaffed on that. Okay, on page 59 and 60, it talks about, they gave a questionnaire, which I think is kind of interesting, and they asked if it was well-maintained, somewhat maintained, somewhat unmaintained, or not maintained. And as far as well-maintained, Gray Cliffs Park came in 4th. Number 1 was Columbia View, which was like 71%, and McCormick Park was 56, and Walnut Tree Park was 68. So it was actually pretty high out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 parks that are listed. So it was actually given a pretty good score, even though it was 55%. Except you can look at those.
13 parks is like a park for every 1,000 people.
Yeah. Well, but they're different categories, John.
Still a park
Neighborhood
for every 1,000 people.
Not a neighborhood park, though. There are different types of parks.
Are there 13 neighborhood parks?
No, there's only like 4 of those, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Neighborhood parks, 6th Street, Godfrey Park, Gray Cliffs Park, and Heidi Heumann are considered neighborhood parks. And I don't know who did all that, but okay. Okay, next, are you satisfied with the parks? And Gray Cliff Park came in 5th in the questionnaire. Number 1 was Columbia View again. Second was McCormick. Those 2 are used. And Nob Hill Park was number 3. And it's probably even higher if they did it now, because you've done so much, you've seen so much has been done to that.
Below there are so
I think you've been
many more
colluding with
people
the
running up
Russians.
there. Huh?
I think you've been colluding with the Russians.
Well, he's done a good job on that. Should be commemorated? What's the word I want to use? Okay, Gray Cliffs, what they need to do. And I'll talk about what I feel needs to be due. This is on page 84. They say that there needs to be a permanent handicapped accessible restrooms. Well, Jen told me that they are going to put in a restroom. If you look at this map here, it's the one at the bottom. It's just going to be a very small restroom because it's in the flood area. But it still will accommodate people. That's better than none. And it's new, so it'll probably be pretty nice. There should be a handicap accessible fishing pier. I like that idea. And I know back in the next page they talk about, people have talked about that for a long time. I think it'd be really neat if it's for non-motorized boats. And I really would like to see that, but that would probably be kind of expensive, you know, so people could bring kayaks and canoes and you know, so they could launch them from there.
My only question with a fishing pier, we ever asked the fishermen, is that a good place to fish?
I've seen people fishing there quite regularly.
Question
Now,
is, they
have I
catch
seen them,
anything out
have I
there?
seen them catching anything? I don't know. But I think
have a fishing pier, but I wanna make sure
I
we
think it
get some
depends.
bang for the buck.
I think
if
it
it's called a
depends on the
fishing pier.
run. It depends on the run that goes up the Multnomah Channel, I think.
It's not good for smelt.
No.
I don't know the
If you
answer to
steelhead
that,
and salmon
but I
are
could
not
find that
good.
answer out because I got so many
Okay.
people I know that fish all the time.
Okay.
Residents are allowed to bring, okay, we've already talked about it. Add signage to make this official boat launch area for canoes, kayaks, and et cetera. And I think that's really a good idea. They talked about a fishing pier and a boat pier.
Now, what is a, I've never seen the word bollards?
I'll get to that. I'll explain that to you.
Okay.
The staircase to Y Street needs some rehabilitation. I'll talk about that. That really does, that's why I wish that Neil and,
Is there a staircase down?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't realize.
well,
there is, but it's a rough trail,
I'll-
narrow.
Oh, it's more like rappelling?
I'll explain that, John. I've used it many, many times. They said add a covered picnic shelter, which they're not gonna do, I don't think, at least that's not it, and a sprinkler system. I have some recommendations that I'll say that I think should be done. Okay, going back to page 153, they're talking about park capital improvements. And I don't know when Jenny put this book together, but back in those days,
2015.
oh, thank you, John. That she thought there should be a fishing, or someone thought there should be a fishing pier there, and they thought $75,000 would be enough for that. A non-motorized boat launch signage at river access. That would be for the sign, it would only be $300, so people could do kayaks and at one time I wanted them to put a little cove in there. I brought that up at the meetings. But anytime you try to deal with, in-water structures,
It's not easy any longer.
yeah, it's better probably to let them pull up to the bank, because, and if they kept doing it all the time, they could probably make their own little, because there's a little low-end area in there that would be really cool to do, and it could be done very easily. And then, covered picnic shelter was 50,000, and for some reason that's not happening. I think that is a good idea, and a sprinkler system. Okay? That's in the book. There's a map here that shows the park. And here's what Jenny said was going to happen. She said where that first asterisk down there, restroom option 1, they're gonna put a restroom there. Restroom option 2 has been canked, so it's not gonna use that anymore. And, Howard, bollards are those big concrete blocks that keep you out,
Okay.
like, keep vehicles from going places.
Oh, okay.
So where I put in those little dashed lines there,
Oh, okay.
those would be bollards.
Okay.
And grading work done in launch area, this would be, they're thinking about doing it. I also asked her, because last year or the year before, they brought in sand and put there. And the sand is good through the summer, but then every year they gotta keep doing it. But if they can get the sand free, it's not a big deal, but it still would probably take, a half a day to do that, to dump it in there. Where that wavy line is, where it says existing picnic area. First of all, let's talk about the dotted area. The existing gravel parking lot, Jen says eventually that's probably gonna be paved. And when it's paved, she said that it'll be striped and everything so they can get a lot more people in there. So it'll be a lot more efficient, because now people just go down there and park. And quite a few people, I don't go down there, I used to live about a block and a half from there, and I used to go down there when the kids were little and feed the ducks all the time. And I go down there now once every couple weeks. It's amazing how many people are there. There's always 2 or 3 people there. It's kind of like, it's kind of a cool area.
That also is an area for high cigarette butts in the gravel. People just throw their butts out there. I'm thinking about that. There's so many in that area. That's
Haven't noticed that, Howard. I'll look.
As your cigarette picking.
Some people have different things that they notice.
Yes. That's my pet peeve, Zach.
That's your pet peeve. Where the wiggly line is there, is it Brad that owns the marina? Is that Brad? One of the things he's mentioned is if they do get a shuttle, you've missed some of the meetings, John. You've missed some real interesting things when you've been gone.
A shuttle.
Yep.
See, you would,
Space shuttle?
Yeah.
What kind of shuttle?
From here to Sand Island.
you're to stand up.
We had one there that didn't work so well.
I know, but this is gonna be run by a competent person, not the city.
That was,
No,
that
no,
was,
no, no,
that
no,
wasn't
no.
the problem. The problem was they were taking kids out there and they were all partying and
Yeah.
leaving a mess.
So it is, one of the things Brad wanted to do, at least he's mentioned it, is maybe increase the size of the parking area. But if they pave it, that may not be needed, okay? Now, this is why I wish Neil and Sue was here, and I guess I'll talk to them when I see them separately. Okay, first of all, if you look at this here, it says the upper parking level, existing off-leash dog area there. So what you do, you walk up this incline probably about 50 yards, and then you come to this flat area up there. And as you walk up on that side, the west side we'll call it, there's a big huge cliff. And then it kind of drops off on the other sides there. So what I would really like to see there, this is one of my recommendations, is I would really like to see a fence put, around 3/4 of it, which is not very much
To
area.
keep people from falling off into the,
Well, what you have here is, like, I've taken my dog up there a couple times. She's not a real social dog, so I usually only let her off when there's not a lot of other dogs there, at least my older dog is. My younger dog is a therapy dog. My wife takes her to Ronald McDonald House. He's a very nice dog, but not my dog. And they run around up here, and if they want to, they can run down the cliffs and down the bushes there. And I also think, when we talk about this, I think this is something that should be advertised for people that are boaters. People that go to Sand Island, people that come here and visit, because it's not a very long walk to bring their dog up here and do it. So people that have dogs on boats, people that bring them camping, and even, and local people too, this really is would be a real good off-leash dog park, which it is, but I think it should definitely have a fence around it and then, a gate here at the beginning. And we're not talking a lot of money. That's one thing I would like to see. The other thing that really needs to be done is this trail. This trail, there's a big tree up here at the top, big Douglas fir tree. Trail goes down the cliff here. So John, to answer your question, you've never been down this trail. I'm picking on John. John and I have been friends for a number of years.
about
So-
45.
So the trail goes down to about like here, and it's right next to the cliff, and it's just a gravel trail that just, it's just an incline. And it's, yeah, it's notched. It's pretty cool. And it's real easy to negotiate. It's very easy to negotiate. A number of years ago, probably FAD, I would assume, they put in some railroad ties the rest of the way down. Kind of like a stair step, but some of them are 2 or 3 feet apart, some of them are 6 feet apart. And the ones up above here are still pretty good. But the bottom ones, this bottom trail really needs to be, it would probably take a whole day with 2 or 3 people of pretty hard physical labor to do that. So what I think they should do is redo that. Basically move the railroad, maybe put in some new railroad ties, move the railroad ties over, because what's happened over the years, there's been a lot of water, and so what happens on this side, it's all eroded. And it's just a mess. And it's very difficult, I can negotiate it pretty well, because I'm a pretty big guy, and I'm still pretty physically fit, but people who, older people, and this really needs to be improved. That really needs to be done. I mean, and it's just, granted, it's going to take, and that could go in your report to the city council, as well as the dog deal. I'd like to see the city council hear that. Okay. And like I mentioned before, I'd like to see them dump some sand down here, which they've done in the past. Jen says that they're going to look into it, and she's all on board with that if it works, if they can get it free. The fencing, the trail, those are the 2 big things that I think, that I'd like to see done there. I would really like to see a pier there, but that's going to cost quite a bit of money. But but even if they just have that, the other thing is the signage, maybe, Carmen, you know, that this is an area where you can bring in canoes, because I think if people started doing that, I think it would actually probably develop into a nice little cove there and it's on its own, you know, it might take several years.
It's not budgeted.
Yeah, and Jens, there's a lot of money being put in this park, and this is kind of a big, I don't know why they're doing it, but I think it's a good idea. And especially if Brad gets all of his stuff going there with Sand Island, you know, I could see this as a real, with Sand Island and all this, a place where people really like to come, plus Brad has all the, you know, all the RV parking around
Is
here.
Sand Island an off-leash area?
It's not an official off-leash area.
City of St. Helens Park, which would be a leashed area.
Hmm?
The City of St. Helens Park, so that'd have to be a leashed area.
Half of it is owned by the city of St. Helens Parks.
It is, City of St. Helens.
No, half of it's
Sand
owned by
Island?
Corvin. not
You're
Corvin.
talking about the sand around, yes.
Yeah. There's a whole area there that is not owned by the city.
I don't think they probably enforce that.
Well, that's where they keep going back and forth, that who actually administers the sand part, and I thought they were discussing that Army Corps of Engineers was gonna say we could, because I mean, if we. if
I
those
think
guys
that was,
Develop a camp.
I don't think they're giving up ownership, but they can give up control of it.
yeah, I think that's what
People
was
would just
said.
go down there and camp on the sand and say,
John, it's not an official, it's not an official off-leash dog park.
And who's gonna enforce it anyway?
You.
yeah.
Does anyone have any questions about it?
No.
Do you know when they're planning to pave the gravelled area?
I don't think
like
that's
a-
Very few.
budgeted. So, the future, it's not like, the bathroom, I got the impression that that's gonna happen real soon, that they're gonna put in the bollards real soon, and they're gonna do some grading work down there. Those 3 asterisks, I got the impression that that's gonna happen
Okay.
soon. Soon being probably this summer and fall.
Is the bathroom, I saw there was a grant for that, so did we get the grant and that's what's paying for it?
I think that's what Jen told me today, is yes, she got the grant for that.
Okay.
I think for those 3 things, I think she has all the money for that.
Perfect.
But I would really like to see the trail and the dog park done too, I mean, the fencing on the dog park. I really think that would add a lot to our parks and a lot to the community.
Do you think that should be added to the budget,
Yes.
to this list?
Yeah, that's what I said. When we were talking, you know, I kind of say, you know, yeah. And we have a commissioner here today. Very good. Welcome,
Off and on.
Commissioner. John, yeah. Any other questions on that? So Commissioner Locke, so are we all one now?
This group, or?
Yes, we're all one.
Do we have a name?
There can be only one.
We have to talk about that, I guess.
And so we can put that on the agenda for next time? Or are you guys just gonna make a decision, commissioners? Okay, put it on the commission, put it on the agenda for next
You
time.
guys should name it.
Yeah, I think we should. Paul,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
The Greater St. Helens Park.
okay. We're in discussion items now. This was supposed to be added to it, but somehow it got left off. What I wanted to do was to have about 15 minutes here to talk about the urban trail. And I have a little thing I'd like for us to do. I passed out this map, I think, last time or the time before. I don't know if this, I'll just let you guys share that.
I have.
So, one of the things when I came on this commission a couple years ago, one of the things and you can see how slow it's been. Things don't happen real fast. One of the things I wanted to see was to have numerous urban hiking trails. I think this is really a good thing, and I think this is the place we should start out with this one. And the reason I think we should start out with this one, because we can get people here to look at the Boise property, walk through that. It's a good thing for people to be able to walk their dogs, to take people that come and visit. If it's an organized trail, it'd be a good walk. I think you go walk through like 6 different parks, counting the city parks. So you're hitting a lot of parks. You can see Sand Island. I think there's it. I cut this out of the Oregonian. This was April 29th, a couple months ago. I think it was right after our last meeting. And these are in the Oregonian all the time. And this one talks about a trail that I think's in Mosier, because I haven't read it
I
here
read
lately.
that story.
And yeah, there's Mosier, and then there's Dallas Mountain. The one down below was, they were talking about, this trail is right, you have to go to Mosier, which is on the other side of Hood River. And you have to go there, and it sounded like a really easy trail. And I don't know, probably, John read the article, very good, John. I read the article. Thousands of people read these things, especially people who like to take their dogs for a walk, who like to go visit other people. Like, as an example, I can't remember if it was Monday or Sunday, we were at the rooftop, my wife and I. I was having a beer. They have very good beer there, by the way. I think so.
Nice view, too.
And we were there, and there was a couple there from Lake Oswego that were sitting there next to us. And, they had read things about looking at other areas, and they, came here to look at that. So, this would bring people to St. Helens. So what I would like to do, and we'll only take maybe about 8 minutes to do this. Eventually, we're going to have a group of us. Paul was originally said he was going to do it, and we'll probably have to get some other people. And we're going to make a trail, or design a trail, and make a recommendation to the city council. So what I'd like to do is to put people in 2 groups, maybe 3 groups. I think we should have Mr. Locke in one of the groups. So I'll put him with
Oh, okay.
okay? And I'll go with Lisa. Carmen, you go with John. And we're going to take about 6 or 7 minutes here. And in your group, I want you to write down the things that need, the topics that need to be addressed in building a trail. Like as an example.
This trail?
This trail. This trail. Okay, so obviously one of the things is there has to be signage. Okay, so let's say your buddies, your person says signage. Okay, how often should the signage be? Where should it look like? Okay, then when we're through, we'll let the 3 groups, like one group will get to say one thing and talk about it, and then we'll move to the next group. And so this gives everyone who's going to be on the committee, which will be us, 2 or 3 of us here, or 4, whatever, we'll have an idea of what needs to be covered. Okay? So, pair up, and write down things that need to, does every group have a map? So they can kind of look at it?
Come over to the old guy over here.
Keith, do you have a,
Although I think he's older than me.
Keith, Keith, you're gonna be with these guys? No, we're in groups of 2. So you're over with.
You can be with our group, Keith.
No. We're splitting them up here. Keith, you go with
I didn't want to be in a group.
Howard. Okay.
We didn't know where
Yeah.
Oh, good, I don't have to do one.
the board.
You 2 go together.
Where does the boardwalk run?
Okay.
Paul, if you would be over with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like,
I think it's all a great idea.
gotta be
Oh, like
like
the,
there to there.
Need to get a
at least.
that they're talking about?
Yeah,
The new
because
one?
that's gonna, if
Yeah.
you're gonna have that as a
Yep.
trail, then it's gonna be.
Yep, so we need to incorporate the boardwalk.
That we have to seriously look at. We really
I know we talked about this before already a little bit. We talked about signage and then kiosks. Those are the 2 things that were missing.
Before,
Needed to be.
we talked
I
about,
know he's wanting us to put down
we talked about this at
Where?
the meeting, about signs
Yeah.
signage.
at
needed to be.
various
That would
points.
be a
I
good.
don't know how many parks.
Steps
Where
is
does
one
this
thing.
go through?
Salt rocks.
I think
Naming
Spring
trails.
Trails,
That would be.
and then that's yeah, and not
Naming the trail.
Yeah, having a name for it.
Oh, that's right, God, people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
We could call it the Oregon.
So, if that's the case,
And if you think it should go somewhere else,
It
say
should
that.
carry somewhere along the way.
That's right.
park,
Smallpox,
sit down a kiosk,
cholera.
when you enter on where this trail is.
yeah, maybe a map of the
Having, I think we talked about before, having
Oh, yeah, there's
different
not.
areas where
So
you
they're
can
having you
go
come
back.
upstairs.
So
Right?
having different areas where you can go back and
trails
then
over
start
here.
like
Yeah,
there's
alternate
trails.
routes.
Shortcuts?
Potentially, yeah.
Oh, alternate
shortcuts.
routes?
Yeah.
I don't know, I have
On the
Alternate
way,
shortcuts.
cause it's like
Steps or
when I
do
go
you
running, you know, I
Well,
kinda come down here,
Depends. I
but,
mean, you coming up the steps or.
some
I think
of
we
the
need to
highways, the cars aren't really.
Find out whether the people want this going through their
Yeah, that was another thing,
So
public
as long as
forum
you have a
on the map.
you can have a little,
Cause I know coming off an uphill, there's no sidewalk. I mean, you can go down the, I don't know what
And
this,
considering sidewalks
exactly up in this
on
kind
the
of a
areas
but,
that's on the road.
you know, when you come down an uphill, that incline
Yeah.
is, there's no
Signage,
sidewalk
probably
there.
just
You
any
can
time
walk
it
down some
turns, doesn't
stairs,
that
I
when
think
you have
there's stairs on that rock wall. and you can walk
Another
down,
Yeah.
get down into the
thing
neighborhood
that
down
brought
below.
up before along
you need a
signs
sign
I don't know, that
actually
neighborhood's so
Definitely
old, I
go.
don't know that
So
there's.
like
Oh,
a
you mean,
business,
or
a
little,
business could like.
That would
like you do at golf courses or signs you see with little business cards.
Yeah, like they could sponsor
if
the
you got one
sign.
sign here
That would be the only,
trail,
that area through there would be
and
interesting to
then,
see how they get off on Knob Hill down into, cause I think once you get down here.
And I'm gonna suggest that they consider expanding
Has
it
sidewalks.
to include the Boise property.
Yeah.
An area that I would walk
Back
Yeah, 'cause I
down
know
Old
all
Portland
down
Road.
here has sidewalks.
This
Here, so it comes up to the,
that way you
past the corner. With the, yeah, the, what do you call it, Susan Room. And then up through Boise and
But yeah, I like
maybe on down along the creek.
That
to
is
Old
so
Portland
hard.
Road, and down from there, something
So
like that.
maybe building
But
this
I don't know if
key
they,
area
these are
with,
just
with the ability to easily
hiking trails.
Is that Old Portland Road there?
add, I don't know
Pedestrian
where,
trails,
but
okay.
easily
Yeah.
add, connect.
That's what I
What you
thought.
understand,
Redo
it's not,
signage.
they're not,
So maybe.
probably
Yeah.
not gonna be large enough to be multi-use trails.
Ability to
where they can
expand
be-
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
easily.
didn't, it doesn't seem like it would be real use of the bike anyway, just 'cause of the.
That'd be a question I'd have, but, see, I mean, cause on some of the, in this area here, if it's sidewalks, obviously.
But a cost estimate.
Cyclists could.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
But I don't know if their plans are to, I don't know if their plans.
Might not be anything,
I
but
scoff at it.
boardwalk certainly.
McCormick Park has
expensive.
some trails that,
trail I put in?
those are trails are just for pedestrians.
I don't care if people walk their bike, but I don't like them riding the bike down.
If we get one more, I'll have 10, I
Problem
think
with
that's adequate.
multi-use, having that multi-use, you have to have something larger.
I think having really like extra signage at the
Even
docks.
maybe right
How
up
about water, how about water access as a,
Water access.
yeah, be able to go down on the, actually touch the water.
Well, they could do that over
Crossing,
right?
Yeah,
Grace
maybe over
Cliff
here.
Or over here.
I'll put that on
if
my,
there's any like pedestrian crossing areas
Howard,
that would be of
Ideas
concern.
about the trail.
We like it, what can we say?
going right by Howard's place.
Major signage.
You know, you have to cross it.
We have 10, we said,
The only
You guys
other thing
done?
I was kinda thinking, I don't
We're
know.
good. We've got a nice full list.
This loop
Now, the
is
other one too,
probably
the
like
one
2
part they
miles.
discussed, but
That's good.
would we have like a shorter loop this way?
It certainly would be more than.
But I was kinda wondering if maybe there was any idea of like
And, you know, like I've said before, like, if you go to Beaverton Parks,
options,
you know,
you know.
they've got all their
routes,
trails listed where you can, you know, I mean, I just
You
think
know,
it's,
one half.
But
you know,
generally,
it's
the
set
ones
up.
I've
Could,
I'm with ya.
all right.
suggestion that I would make, because
Slow
not
process.
everybody's gonna wanna walk
And then
2
it has
miles.
each
Yeah,
section,
with
how
kids.
long each section is,
With some
right?
dogs too.
You know?
Yeah, it would be.
Some of them I saw like a southwest
It's a
walk.
good idea.
northwest.
Elisa, are you guys done or still got more time?
But he said, this section is this long, this section is this long.
I guess.
No, I mean. Okay, let's get back together here then.
Just moved all
That's
over.
all right.
Signs, but not a lot of signs.
Okay, so what, if you start, we're starting from scratch. So what are the type of, so let's start with Elisa and Paul. What's one thing you guys have?
That needs to be a part of the trail. Signage,
Okay,
obviously.
that, stop, no, we're stopping right there. Okay, signage. Okay, so what do you think the signage should look like?
I would imagine that, isn't there, didn't they have that routing thing?
Yep.
with the city,
Well, I think,
The signage?
is it Lisa? Or is it
Elisa, yeah.
Elisa.
Elisa.
I think she
okay.
had a good suggestion, is have like a map with you are here, so So you could have signs like that at different points to let people know where they are, and then it shows the rest of the, maybe that, I don't know. I don't know if you really necessarily need a sign that says arrow this way, or, you know.
Go this way.
Just at major intersections is about where you need arrows,
Okay,
you know,
so signs at major intersections.
And
little corner.
Wherever it changes
consistent with the city's wayfinding,
That's what I was
Signage.
trying to say. I imagine it would tie
Say that
in
again.
there.
consistent with the city's wayfinding signage, because there was a big plan, big wayfinding, I think that's what.
So it would be,
This
it
should
would
also
be
be
marked,
on
the
it.
trail itself would be marked with signage, no.
Right, not that
sign,
name.
A name
like that, it would-
along with signage.
You call
just
that
giving
way
it-
what?
Wayfinding? Isn't that what it was called?
Wayfinding.
Wayfinding, yeah.
And a Wayne
Finding
Wygant.
your way.
So there's an official
There's a-
wayfinding.
developed
Yeah,
sign
for the city.
protocol, yes.
Okay, so so the signage should be done by city protocol.
And it should have a name on it.
Yeah, it needs to have a name. for
You know,
the
name for the
trail.
trail. We could call it Jerry's Trail.
Okay, well, let's leave it there. Okay. I think this, okay, so let's go, does anyone else want to say anything about signage?
Another item on, for signage, that would be a great suggestion, is if you had like, we had talked about kiosks, I think we've talked about that in the past, having kiosks at maybe each park as they enter the park, kind of informational little kiosk. But you could have one of those QR codes with an app on it, that a person could just quickly download the route, and they'd have it right there, and they could just follow their phone, just like.
What'd you call that, Paul?
Huh?
What'd you call that?
Just I don't know, I guess they're called QR codes or whatever, but, yeah,
A
you can just.
QR code.
It's like a little square.
Yeah, okay.
barcode looking thing that you can scan.
And you can do that, and it'll scan the map.
It'll just scan the map and they'll be right on their phone. Yeah, that would be-
Okay, so we actually moved on to another area, because I think another area okay. I think the kiosk is another area. I think signage is one, I know that the kiosk is part of the signing, but I think, at the beginning of the trail. Okay, does anything, want to say anything more about signing?
So, so the one,
Oh, go ahead.
I was at a park in, I can't remember, Tigard or somewhere, and you're in a park and you see this sign and it shows the whole trail, and then it says how long each section is to the trail and whatnot, and then it has, if there's any other information, like your shortcut or anything like that. So that would be like, maybe you need at least two, one at each end of the trail, or something like that,
Okay,
That's that one.
But also, Jerry,
Yeah, we mentioned shortcuts too, signage for like.
Okay.
yeah.
didn't we talk about also too, Jerry, where it gets really close down here, that there may be like a short option where you could either do like Route A or Route B and A?
okay. So shortcuts should be something, okay?
And to go along with shortcuts, also the ability to expand the trail, like start with a certain area, but down the road, the
Like,
ability
say,
to
up to,
expand
go out
it.
along the creek and, by Boise Mill and then back down Old Portland Road to connect.
Go through
So-
McCormick.
Yeah, making the signage.
Could, you
so
could go
that
through
it's-
McCormick.
Find a way
doesn't
to
have
go
to all
through
be
there.
There's a bridge across
Yeah,
it
and
now,
every
right?
time you wanna add-
So you could go up
add
to
a
the bridge and go
section to it
across,
or keep
go through
building on it.
McCormick and come back down,
Okay.
Columbia Boulevard to First Street, stop at Keith's house for a drink.
So how,
Well, now it's over there somewhere, they talk about someday you'd have a Fifth or Sixth Street right away with, you could tie it in there.
In other words, we're just thinking of another loop
Go on,
on
go
it.
on,
Well,
sorry.
you- okay, my question on this is though, are you just talking about when you make the original sign that you have more room down at the bottom?
I don't know, I think it would need to be discussed as to how you wanna handle it, but
Mm-hmm.
either way, I think there should be some kind of keeping in mind when the plan is put in place, just keeping in mind expansion down the road,
Mhm.
so that it's at least thought of at the beginning and it doesn't have to be, stuff doesn't have to be completely redone if we want to add to it.
Okay. I'm a very negative person on this because, I mean, things move so slow that
Yeah.
I think this trail will be in existence for a number of years before another one is added, or it might be, okay, but.
Fair, but
th-
still,
I-
something to
okay.
at least
Well,
think about at the
A portion
forefront.
of it, Jerry, may be
Because then
there,
it's
because portion of
easier
this
to
trail will
add.
be the boardwalk.
Oh, no, definitely, a portion of it would be boardwalk.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, oh, no, there's no doubt about that. That would, boardwalk would be part of the trail. We talked about,
Mhm.
okay,
And that may come sooner than you think.
okay, so,
Plus,
Howard,
too, if you take a look at the brochures they've got hanging where they have the fairy festival down there, says that there's also gonna be a bluff walk along this edge of the veneer plant property too.
okay,
So, there's a lot more options in there.
a bluff walk. I'm not sure where you're talking about.
Along like the base of Nob Hill down here at the edges of the parking lot.
Oh, so it's in Nob Hill Park, but it's right along the edges of Nob Hill? It's in Nob Hill Park?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how far they're talking about, but there's a sign that says, oh, and they'd like to have what they call bluff walk along the base of Nob Hill Nature Park. And so I kinda got the feeling they're talking about that there'd be a trail that, kinda how it is right now. You
Okay.
on the veneer plant
Okay, one of the
property.
things I think is when we enter the park, every time you enter a park, I'm gonna write this down. I think there should be a sign at the beginning, or when you enter each park, that says the name of the park, and it has a map of the park, because like you go to Nob Hill Park, which would be the first, they'd be along the boardwalk there, John, like you say. And then they enter Nob Hill Park. So when they enter Nob Hill Park, there's the main trail that goes through it.
Yeah,
But if you had a sign there at the beginning, people could look at it and says, okay, they see that this is kinda like what you were saying, Keith. There's the main trail that goes through it, but then there's the other trail. So you
Yeah.
could have a trail that says the Bluff Overlook, or you could have one that's called the Camas Trail over here.
Yeah.
Or whatever
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want it to be. So I think,
Or Boise, they do.
And I feel like that goes along with the
You
kiosk
have the cannabis trail.
idea, just every park having their own.
kiosk,
walk this way.
Yes.
Of Boise?
Closer than you think.
Yeah.
okay.
Consistent at every park, there's the same thing when you walk in, you get the same information about every park.
Because when we're looking at, I know this is a county park out here, Plaza Park, but we have, what's the park out here called?
Columbia View.
Columbia View, and then we're gonna have the new park, the boardwalk and all that. Then we're gonna have Nob Hill
Columbia
Park,
View, isn't
and then we'll go through Godfrey Park, Gray Cliffs Park, so, there's a number of them, so one at each one. Okay, so we've talked about signage, okay. Howie and, Keith, what's another area that needs to be addressed?
I think it was all right. I mean, I guess some of it is, the map doesn't quite show exactly how we're going up through the Nob Hill Nature Park.
No, we'll get to that. What's another topic, though, that needs to be addressed?
Is anything ADA on,
Ooh,
How you get around stairs or whatnot.
and what portion of it is open? Because probably only the boardwalk and the initial part of it will be. Okay, so what do you want to say about ADA?
Well, it has to be marked that this portion is ADA,
yeah, is there a way for part of it
or this
to?
portion is non-ADA.
See, that would have never entered my mind for some reason, but does any comments on that?
Maybe in a couple of years, Jerry.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You're a walker.
Hey,
'Cause we have-
John, that could be
I'll
a
probably
reality.
meet before you
Yeah,
do.
well, you never know,
It's hard telling from this map, but how do you get off of Nob Hill,
Okay, you go through Nob Hill Park,
right?
and,
Down those
I can't
stairs?
There's two ways, actually. One's down the stairs, and the other way is to continue on the trail.
So this map right here, if you look at, say, this spot right here, this is Third Street right here, okay? This is Third Street right here. And that's, when you go through it, that's the way it's kind of designed.
Second, that'd be
But you
first.
can also go through it and come out.
You could come up
you-
closer to the sewage treatment plant and it'd be.
So what are the
smoother.
two streets there, Howard? It's been a while.
There's Third and Fourth.
So you could either come out Third or Fourth Street, and the way this is set up, it's coming out Third Street, the way this park is set up. And that's the reason, so they can go and eventually walk down the stairs by John, Gum there, and,
So there's sidewalks, I guess that was our.
oh, that's one of the things.
Up in my
that-
area is not really.
That's
that-
why I'm wondering
this-
how you getting off Nob Hill with sidewalks.
So Paul, this is one of the
It's
things
the
that Jen was she was concerned about. There's a 2-block area here. I think there's sidewalks, it's been a while since I've walked, it's been a month or two since I've walked this. I've walked this lots of times, but it's, but it seems to me like in this area right here, there's a sidewalk on this side of the street, and I think one over here for part of the way. But in this area here, there's no sidewalks. And that was
Right.
one of the areas, and that's one of the things we need to address. So I wanted to go to another group, but since we're there, let's talk about how you, okay, are we through with ADA?
Yeah.
Okay, what's an area that you guys came up with that's different?
Public forum on the path, because the ones that are going by the houses, just making sure that the public is aware and any concerns that they have.
In other words, the
brought up
people on
in
Third
the
Street may not be real happy with you for
About
putting a
everybody.
trail right through their
Especially
backyard.
if there's not sidewalks,
You
and
can
that was
switch
another thing, the
dogs.
sidewalks.
No, okay, so what are we gonna call
Because the
that?
sidewalks that are basically in my neighborhood, pretty much
Public
none of them
approval?
are complete. Mine's the
Public
only full
approval.
width property sidewalk on my side of the whole
You can have a
block.
you have a hearing is what you can do.
So,
Well, yeah, but, so there's no sidewalks, okay?
Luckily,
So
it's
how
a
would we,
dead-end
how would,
street,
okay, so here would be the thing then. Basically, they're on Third Street, how would the trail be marked on, okay, so, we get off subject here, we're gonna call it something different,
Okay.
okay?
So, talking about sidewalks, you would recommend to the city council that they make a priority that these sidewalks are continued.
So we,
You'd probably end up with it because of what's gone on in my neighborhood. You could have real hard feelings about that, because if they put in, mine not going all the way across, it's not lined up on my side of the street. If you go out to the extra 15 feet that was bought, it would be, but then you're talking about making people become parallel parkers, and you got a bunch of people up there that
So
they
you
pull
mark
straight in.
details here.
And if they were losing parking, you'd have a huge fight. Some of them have actually paved the entire front area.
Well, I think.
okay, so here's, okay, we're gonna, second, let me
Details.
say this, okay, so, with your group, we're talking about how to mark non-sidewalk trail. One thing would be to do was to have the city pave, which I think is very realistic, because we're only talking about 2 blocks one side of the street. Maybe it's only, I'd have to look at it, but to pave this portion, I have a sidewalk in this portion and this portion. So Keith, is that a reality that, I don't know,
All you gotta do is.
It's a reality.
Recommend and give.
It's
it
a
to
reality.
council, Let
It could
council
happen.
deal with it then.
You could, but like on my side of the street, it goes into a rock bluff. How would you put a sidewalk up over, rock bluff is all the way out to the edge of the asphalt that's there right now. How would,
How do you get by it
Just in the
now?
back.
How do you get by it?
everybody walks in the street up there.
Okay.
That's literally
So
it.
at least
Everybody
there's
walks in
something
the
to-
street.
okay, so we needed, okay, so here was my
That's the
thinking
hardest
on,
thing in my area.
on that portion. That, in the road,
Uh-huh.
and I've walked that, and
Uh-huh.
is a, you have like, say, a dotted line. Like, have you ever been to Boston where they have like, these trails, the Heritage Trail, I don't know what they call the one in Boston now. But basically, they just have a big line. And you follow that line. So, so follow line.
There you go.
Or
That'd be better.
ever what we're going to have there, we could actually have 2 lines, where this is where people walk. I don't know what the legality of that is and everything, but that is an issue in that area, And I'd have to look at it to, or the city would have to look at it.
Planning commission help with that?
Planning and engineering, mostly engineering.
That sounds like.
I'd have to look at that again. It's been a while since I've actually gone there and looked at that to see, but I don't see that as a big deal, because I've walked on trails in Beaverton that go through residential areas where there's no sidewalks. And there's cars parked right up to the lawns there, and there's no sidewalks, you just walk in the street. No one says anything. That, I don't see any different than
Look
this
at the
than
picture
that.
of Prairie is dead end. There's not a lot of houses. I mean, there's houses up there, but there's not a huge amount of houses.
Yeah.
So a trail in the street.
Well, on the boardwalk may
Yeah.
be enough for.
Yeah, and I don't
So-
see, from a personal, like I'm an advocate of this, so, but, I don't see an issue with walking in the street. I don't see that as a safety issue. As a big,
Not-
I don't see it as a big safety issue because
What's a
there's,
dead-end street, for one?
it's a dead-end street.
Yeah.
And when I've walked there, there's rarely ever even a car that comes down the street. But it could happen.
The other side of Tualatin, going up towards where the stairs goes down by the bed and breakfast, there's a little bit more traffic.
Yeah, and there's actually I think there's actually a sidewalk pretty much on most of the left-hand side. So I think we're only talking about one major block there, and there's not much traffic. Okay, Lisa, we're back to your group. What's another area you have that needs to be addressed?
Well, mostly, safety for pedestrians. I mean, we need to make sure there's crosswalks, and if not sidewalks, then there needs to be a space for people to walk where they're not gonna be out in traffic.
Yeah, marked crosswalks is a good idea.
Okay, so safety, marked crosswalks, and the trail needs to be marked. I think, so, okay. You guys have, Howard?
Any more, no, that's it.
Okay,
Just how much it costs.
okay,
Cost estimate.
couple area I want, cost estimate, okay. I don't know if that's really our job to do that, but
But at
it,
least
it needs to be
on
addressed.
that,
It
yeah.
needs to be addressed.
So just, you were talking about the trail earlier, along the dog park there. That's not a real city trail, because if the city trail has to be ADA or somewhat improved and whatnot. That's why, just like the trail, that I put in a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I put that in, and public works didn't touch it, because when the city touches it, it has to have, be certain standards, so private individuals can do things that they don't have to.
Private individual city councilor?
I'm still a private individual.
Yeah.
Keith,
Nice try.
my understand, okay, this is what I was told a number of years ago on a project, was that
God, sorry.
if the
can't turn this
city
off.
is going to
I know what I'll do.
build something entirely new,
Yeah.
we're talking about, we're kind of off the subject now, because this trail, but people would be
Well, this is
coming
part
down
of the
this
trail,
trail,
yeah.
is that if the city is building a new trail, it has to meet all the requirements.
Right.
But if a trail has been in existence for a long period of time, which this trail has been in existence as
Right.
long as I've lived in St. Helens, and probably 50 years or 100 years before I got here, that the city they can do basic maintenance on the trail.
Yes.
And the first, from the top to the bottom, there's probably 3/4 of it that can be left like it is, and the very last bottom part can be left. It's kind of at the top where I was talking about where the railroad ties come in. So my understanding, not beating around the bush, is that they can do maintenance on trails, and this stuff is already there. So that trail, it would need some maintenance. So that's it's not a new project, it's just,
Depends on how far you get into it, yeah.
yeah, we're just talking about probably 4.
Grandfather did.
We're talking,
Gravel on it.
we're
You
talking,
get a
we're
little
talking
more
about a
into
20,
it.
30, we're talking about a 30-foot section. And this is definitely not ADA. I mean, there's no way that that's ADA. But even for regular people, it needs
Well,
to.
there's even
He put a
times
rail
when
system
I've seen
down.
it falls off occasionally, and there is no trail.
There's a slide,
Yeah,
there's a slide spot in there.
Yeah, yeah. Comes down on the trail.
Well, it goes off, the
yeah.
trail
Well,
itself goes away.
I've probably been down that trail as many times as anyone.
I've been on a couple of years, but.
You put a platform at the
There's-
dog lovers leap.
Oh, God, there was something. Okay. One thing, I think there should be also a kiosk, a large kiosk, down by where Seaman is. That's kind of the beginning of the trail. And the other thing I would like to see there, and I don't know how we go through this, let me write this down. I don't know what we call it. We call it I don't know what it's
It'd be
called.
an informational kiosk down there. We've talked about this for years.
But more, Keith, than informational. One that has all of
They already were out by
downtown
brand.
showed that shows where the businesses are. Because I've talked to
There used
people,
to be one there.
and so I've been to cities where they have a kiosk down there where you look at the kiosk and it has all the restaurants located, it has, all the clothing stores so the merchants would pay a fee to get their name on this map. And the reason I think this is important is because when people get off the boat and walk up there, if they're not familiar with St. Helens, they don't know where things are. Like, I talked to some people a couple years ago. They got off. I can't remember where they walked to. I think they may have walked to the Thai restaurant or something like that. I can't remember. They told me they walked to something. But they didn't know that all these other restaurants existed. And people who come here in the summertime on boats and things, some of them do come here to eat and to shop. So I think there should be I don't know, what do you want to, what should that be called? What do you call that?
You could have an area where you could put in brochures. You could have the bicycle and pedestrian, you could have the free maps from that, you could have the parks brochure that tells where all the parks are. You could have another brochure that somebody could pick up that would show where all the restaurants are. It could be on a map, but I would think you'd also want to have something where somebody could take it away from there and walk up into the, the core of the area and say, oh, that's over here and that's over here.
Okay.
That's why I'm still
Before we
a
talked,
person.
there used to be a map down there. It was very old, and then it got cockeyed, and then finally, about 3 or 4 years ago, we tore it down.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, one side, should be one down there. One side's a big map, what you say is on it, then the other side should be for brochures and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, another topic I think is marketing. I've talked to Jen about this, is that, I think it should, be on the city website or on a trail site, so people that go on the internet and they're looking for places to go hiking, they can find, oh, the St. Helens, we have a name for it, Urban Hiking Trail, or what we decide to call it, Frogmore or whatever the name comes up with. We should talk about marketing there too.
Yeah, I put down a press release too for once it's done, getting the word out there, and marketing it too.
Maybe we could get the Oregonian, once the trail's all done, get their trails person that writes these articles to come here, take pictures. Because, like at the top of the cliff there, where this trail that Keith talks about is, there's a big pine tree up there, probably Douglas fir tree. It's got a beautiful view, back towards Mount Hood, looking down on the marina. So there are some real beautiful views. You go to the park that you're at, once you enter that park, you can go to okay. Anything else that needs to be addressed?
I think that was a
Time's up.
good point, the viewpoint thing, like having something along the, little
Viewpoints or places to
markers,
take
like
pictures.
this is a viewpoint, or this park has a playground, or, just little things like that. I don't know if that would go with the signage or map.
So,
or just
so
trail
like the
recreation
kiosk,
or-
so see kiosk with view, okay, with the viewing.
Well, you had a map, but you also had a map of each park when you show up there.
Yeah, when you show up at each park, it has, and then that would have, I wrote
Have
viewing.
symbols for playgrounds or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just thinking
Ball
as a
fields.
parent, if I go somewhere and I'm somewhere I don't know and there's this trail system, I'm like, okay, I could go on that trail system, or maybe I just want to
Right.
take the shortcut, or if I know that there's gonna be a park at the end, I can drive my 3-year-old to do the trail to get
Right.
to the park.
Because when you go to Godfrey Park, there are things, swings,
Yeah,
teeter-totters,
exactly.
things like that. Are we done here? Everyone,
I gotta go anyway.
it's too long, okay. Is there anything else we want to talk about on the urban trails? Now, somewhere along the line, we got to form a committee to do that, and let's not, we don't meet for 2 more months, so
But we should do a committee then. so we
let's
can
do
meet
a
before
committee.
then,
Why don't you put it
and
out,
then we can start
put it
planning
out
our
on
festival.
the emails and let everybody
I don't
respond?
do emails, John.
You don't do emails?
No.
You have a cell phone?
It's up to your
I do.
committee. You don't have to wait every 2 months. If you guys have business to do, you can have it every month.
Yeah.
But if we have a committee, we could just meet separately. That was the idea originally.
I'll be on it, if you'll have me.
Okay, who wants to be on a committee?
Probably just about everybody.
Fools, all of you.
Because I do think if we get the two groups going well, I think we're gonna have to be every month.
I have to leave
If we,
Jerry.
and if we
Okay,
wait
John,
every 2
we're
months
just
to talk
gonna-
about this, it's never gonna happen.
Well, we've
Just
been
gonna go
talking
around the
about it
room,
for,
Marty.
I've been talking about it for 2 years.
So let's make it happen.
Have fun.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Howard, you wanna be on it? Carmen, you wanna be on it? I wanna be on it. Does anyone else wanna be on it?
I know somebody from our committee will be on it. I'm just too busy this
Yeah.
summer.
I'm trying to think of.
Well,
the guy-
there,
I don't
it's
wanna-
not your committee anymore. It's this
Well, no,
committee.
but I mean, the other two members, we have,
Paul,
there's three of us.
Ben said he wanted to
Ben,
be on it,
yeah.
but I've had a hard time getting hold of people. You know, because I've tried to get a subcommittee going before, and I couldn't get it going. Okay. ELISA? Okay. What's a good time for you to meet, Howard? What day, what time?
Pretty much any time. Tuesdays is sometimes a conflict in the evening. Well, if it's the first Tuesday of the month, I have two other committees.
So Tuesdays, no.
that are on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays are bad for me because I do Red Cross and I do men's league golf. Okay, that's not good for me either. Okay, Lisa, what's good for you?
Sundays, Mondays, and Fridays. Would be good.
And Fridays. Okay. Monday afternoons would work for, yeah, we can, okay, we're almost done. And Carmen, what's good for you?
Wednesdays are good for me because I work from home that day. I could do Sundays, that would be good. Otherwise, I'm in Portland until like, I get home at 5, Monday through Friday typically.
I could do Wednesday.
That's what I was gonna say.
Because I
Wednesday
get off
afternoon.
work at, I'm home by 3.
Okay.
So when,
Yeah, if we could
so,
do like a 4 o'clock on a Wednesday maybe?
Yeah,
That would work.
that would be great. 4 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Howard, how does Wednesdays at 4 o'clock work? In the afternoon, obviously.
Don't see a problem with that.
Okay. How do I adjourn the meeting? The meeting is adjourned?
That's
Wait,
it.
wait,
Sherry, what?
Not all the way done with
Do
the
we know
agenda, are you?
exactly when the,
Oh, we're not done? Discussion items?
that's what we're on right now,
I
right?
need somebody to volunteer for a parks report next month. Stan said he would do Walnut Tree.
Oh,
So
Okay.
Jake's not here, can't ask him. Elisa, do you wanna do dog parks or do you
Sure.
the botanical garden? You wanna do dog parks next?
Sure, I can do dog parks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I got a couple little things I need to mention.
okay. Sherry, are you done?
Yes.
Howard?
Okay, I just wanna let you guys know too, we're working with the Columbia Soil and Water Conservation District, and they may be able to help us with some blackberry spraying. There's a possibility, they need to see how their thing's gonna go, they may be able to put some money into it. She was also wondering possibly, we'll have to see, because they're starting to, try to educate people more with the contamination of seeds. Sometimes when you go into a park or something, you should brush your shoes off, because you're dragging invasive weeds around, and you gotta deal with a Chinese geranium that's popping up.
So Howard, they would spray,
For blackberries.
okay.
In Nob Hill, yeah.
And there's also, down at the far end of, Gray Cliffs, past that little area there, there's a whole bunch of there's some blackberries along that should be sprayed in there too, so you can mention that.
Well,
There's, I was gonna say that earlier and I forgot about it. There's
well,
some
that's the other one,
blackberries,
if Thad and Neil were here, they do sometimes have the, what do we call it, the works crew or whatever from the jail or whatever, that they've done some work like cutting out blackberries in our parks and stuff before. So that could be another possibility, if you have a huge pile, that possibly we could get, people that are working off their community service or whatever, maybe they could go down there and take out the blackberries first too. Because sometimes blackberries are easier to spray if you have them lower to the ground rather than having 6-foot high blackberries you're just trying to hose. So there's a couple of different possibilities that way, you know.
That's something you can call and ask that anytime. You don't have to wait for meetings or anything.
Okay. And I was gonna say too, I've gotten some spots where I know of poison oak, and I imagine I'm probably just gonna call Paul directly. That's usually what everybody always says, is call Paul and just show him where the hot spots of poison oak are up in our park. Because we try to control what's right up against the trail. Get more than 10 feet off the trail, gotta pay attention to where you're
Where
going.
you're going.
But we try to control what's right next to the trail.
Sherry, is there a place we could meet here? Or do we have to reserve a place?
I don't know, 'cause I don't work anymore.
Why not? Why don't we just say we'll meet next Wednesday at 4? And,
Okay.
where shall we meet? We could meet at my house, that's not an issue. But, or we
Say,
could,
if it wasn't gonna be so hot, I'd say we just meet outside somewhere, but it's
Yeah.
gonna be 100 degrees middle
I'd
of
pref-
next week. Is one of the forecasts. Is, I guess that would be the question. Who would we call down here to find out if we could meet in here for a little while on Wednesday at 4?
Trying to see if I can get to the schedule. You mean Wednesday, 2 days away, or Wednesday next week?
Wednesday next
Next
week?
No, that's council meeting day.
Yep, they have a work session and everything else going on there.
I have no problem with people coming to my house.
What area, okay, what area are you in?
You
Are
wanna-
you over by Great Clips somewhere, aren't you?
Yeah.
Direct
I live at
Clips.
105 Belton Road.
Yeah.
105
He sent out some
Melton?
type of direction.
105 Belton Road,
Belton.
Belton. Just go down 6th Street. 6th Street turns into Belton Road. When you get to the Silver Elk, there's a big, huge elk there.
Yeah,
The road veers to the right. It goes downhill about 200 or 300 yards, and it makes a sharp right-hand turn. And there's a orange fire hydrant. And then there's a mailbox that has 105 Belton Road there.
what's your telephone number, just in case somebody has a terrible?
503-984. Don't want anyone in the world to know this, no. Am I being recorded?
Yes,
Yeah, that's a
We
good
can
question.
give it from you off the,
tomorrow I will
yeah.
email you guys all an updated contact list. I was gonna wait
Okay.
until this other group joined and add those people, but I'll email you
Okay.
guys tomorrow, so you've got each other's phone numbers.
And this is
Okay.
my cell
Oh,
phone
okay.
Good way.
number, cause I'm not always home. Awesome. It's kind of funny, I
Love that.
use those at the dog park instead
It's a
of
good
play dates.
idea.
All right.
That's really cute.
I should get
What a
some
good
cards with my,
idea.
once my wife sees this,
Uh-oh.
it's gonna go crazy, because she'll want some. With our
That's
two
a good
dogs,
idea.
or at least her dog on it.
That's funny.
Are we done here, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, so what is next Wednesday? What's the actual date on that?
Wednesday at 4 PM. It's the 20th, I think. It's the day that I.
Is that the day you're talking to the,
Yeah.
is that the day you're talking to the,
Yep,
That's at
I'm
like 1
presenting
o'clock
at
or
like
something.
1 o'clock, but that's okay. That's fine.
Will that,
Yep.
okay, so next Wednesday.
What
If I'm
time?
a little bit
What
late,
time?
sorry.
Oh, we said 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 4 o'clock, I think.
Or we could do it earlier if you wanted to.
No, that's,
I don't think I could do any earlier.
Okay. And pretty much, I'm not gonna do much preparation for that. We're just gonna show up and, we'll talk off. During this, we'll talk off.
Sounds
Meeting's adjourned.
okay, is there a way also to get this information to those other 2 people on the bicycle and pedestrian committee, just in case
Well,
they wanted?
no, we're gonna do this, and
Okay.
then, once we're done with it,
They can get
they're
their
not on that,
report.
they're on our, they're with us now, so it's not 2 committees, is what
Yeah.
Keith said, so.
Okay.
And I really tried to get a hold of